Hey, what's going on? This is some random Irish guy back with part 2 of my American consoles. As you see before you, I have the amazing, incredible, iconic, classic Combat. Now, the Atari 2600 video computer system. So this is the American version of it with the original Woody design. And these are pretty hard to come by. Like, I spent quite some money on this thing. On the front here you've got an off button, on off button. You've got a TV type so you can play it in black and white or colour if you wanted. For the left player, player 1, you've got difficulty A and difficulty B. Generally speaking, A is easy, B is hard. That's where the game slot would go in. Take Combat as an example here. And the right player, player 2, difficulty A, difficulty B. You have a game select with a spring reload. And you have a game reset. So, take it around the back here. Let's see where the ports would go. You had the main power adapter port here. You had a right controller and a left controller. Now this is, of course, an American console, so I have an American adapter. So you might be thinking, well, how am I going to plug this into a UK wall? Well, much like the American Super Nintendo that I purchased not so long ago, you buy yourself one of these, a drop-down converter. Plug that in, and boom, you're sorted. You can also indeed get a third-party, AC adapter which have these things, but if you want to stick to the original one, then just use this. It works just fine. It's nothing broken or anything. So the back would go in like so. Alright. And then you'd get your controller, which is by itself probably the most simplest, easiest, most, just the most recognizable controller of arcade classics that I've ever seen in my life. Now this controller is the original Atari 2600 controller. As you can see on the front it says Atari. The lead is absolutely short beyond belief, so this would be the kind of console that you'd play back in the day, kneeling down right in front of it. It's not like today where everything's all wireless, you don't have to worry about this magical thing called wire, but this is more of like a family computer, so generally speaking a lot of people will be huddling around the TV. So this would go into either or, left or right controller inputs. And the only gripe that I could see with this was not only was the cable very short, but generally speaking you'd have it in the front. So the wire was always, going to be overtaking the system, unless you can wrap it around, but you didn't really get that much room. It's probably the best Atari 2600 game I've ever played. But without saying, Pac-Man was the best-selling game, even though this is the worst version of Pac-Man I've ever played in my life. So if you're collecting Atari, you found a decent one online, they're selling it very cheap, but they don't have the original controller, and if you happen to have your old Mega Drive or Genesis controller lying around, it'll work. Because fortunately, they have the same input as the Atari. So that would then plug into the back, like so. If it wasn't upside down. And you're good to go. Sega Master System controller, that too has the same plug, so you can plug that in as well too. So the thing about it is Atari only used one button, so pretty much one button would be pointless and one button would be working. Sonic the Hedgehog will not work with the Atari 2600. I just want to get that out of the way with it won't fit. You can try all you want, but some games, like Breakout, would require you to use paddle controllers. And the best thing about these is that if you buy a paddle controller like this, you don't automatically just get one. You get two, because these two are daisy chained. With all this cluster hell of wires, these two are daisy chained to one plug. So naturally speaking, you could have 4 of these going into the back. The Atari 7800 European controller, and this pretty much feels like a Nintendo, and like with the Genesis and like with the Master, it has the exact same plug, so you're always going to be sorted when it comes to Atari. The only person that fucked it up was the Atari 5200, but that thing is just even a colossal piece of shit. I don't even want to get one of them. So this too would have the A, B buttons. They're pretty spaced apart and there are these weird indents for your thumb to go. It kind of feels awkward, but you can work around it. And for 2600 games you only use one button, so you're only going to be focused on just one button. D-pad feels kind of cool. Or if you want to use an analog feel, you can get this little screw-in indent that came with the controller when I purchased it. And you screw it in and you get kind of a weird, kind of a simulated analog feel, but it doesn't really feel that all good. But I keep it screwed on because I don't want to lose this. This is the Atari Flashback 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3. Atari Flashback 3. And it says it's the classic game console. Built in 60 Atari games. So we've got Yar's Revenge, Adventure, Asteroids, Air Sea Battle, Missile Command. Let's take a look at the unit itself here. On the front you've got 2 controller inputs. The thing comes with 2 controllers. This is the new one, and this is the old one. You can't even tell the difference except that one has a logo on top. And in my opinion, this one feels a lot better than this one. Same size, same height, has Atari on the bottom. This one has screws. The D-pad feels a lot more smooth. Just feels a lot more freely moved. Input button there feels a lot more intact. It's a new controller. Unfortunately, it has the same plug. So you know what I'm thinking? You know what I'm thinking, don't you? You don't even need this. You have a new Atari 2600 controller. But unfortunately, there's a catch. Because I've tested this. This new designed Atari plug and play, whatever you want to call it, will not work with the 78 controller, the Master System controller, or even the Genesis controller, which I've seemed to lost in this clusterfuck of wires. On the front we've got a power, we've got a start, which would be the pause or whatever, difficulty left, difficulty right, and a game select. No reset button, but you never really need it anyway. On the back we've got one wire that sticks out, and you'll note that it has composite, so you don't have to tune this to a TV, which is always good. And there's a standard DC wall power, which is a DC 5 volt, which looks like this. Very common, very easy to find. You can find these plugs pretty much anywhere. Plugs in like so. No game slot, no game cartridge slots, just games are built in. And you can enjoy 60 Atari classic games for an affordable price. That was a look at the Atari 2600 and the new Atari Flashback 3. Now who's going to get me to clean up all these wires?